Julie, have you cleaned up all of your food that
Okay.
you've finished eating?
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing on the table in the dining room?
We're now recording.
Okay, thank you. This is a regular monthly meeting of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission being held electronically via Zoom on April 19th, 2020 at 4 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place and agenda of this meeting has been noticed by transmitting a copy to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton. It has also been posted on the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to Executive Order 107, due to the state of emergency in New Jersey regarding COVID-19 coronavirus, notice that during the declared state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Historic Preservation Commission will be held electronically via Zoom. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the website and are to be maintained throughout the year and filed with the Clerk of Princeton. All right, can you do a roll call, Elizabeth, or?
Yes. Ms. Capozzoli,
I am here.
Mr. Endersby,
I'm here too.
Ms. Satterfield, Mr. Shore,
I'm here. We're there.
Shatskin,
Here.
Ms. Campbell,
Here.
Ms. DeSanzo,
Here.
Ms. Howard,
Here.
Mr. Pyle. Thomas, you have to unmute.
Oh.
He's present.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Elizabeth, did you have any announcements?
I did
I
not.
don't.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go into the minutes for March 15th, 2021. Justin did a great job. I didn't even have any changes. I don't know, does anyone else have changes to the minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Also move.
Okay, thanks, Elric. Second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Roger. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Motion carried. All right, the second thing we have to deal with is the resolution for 1517 Edwards Place. So let's see. We got this on Sunday. I hope everybody had a chance to look at it. But I mean, it was a unanimous decision without any opposition. Let's see.
And
I
Madam
just-
Chair, maybe just to
Yeah.
clarify that the application, the way that the attorney had broken it up is that we have a resolution for the garage demolition because that's solely in HPC's jurisdiction. And then there is the HPC chair memo, which will be going to the Board of Jurisdiction. Is that?
Oh, right, okay. All right, so this is just for the demolition of the garage.
Correct.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve the resolution?
Sure, motion to approve.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Brenna. So it's been moved by Carrie, seconded by Brenna. All in
Just a minute,
favor?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Carrie, were you at the meeting for this application?
That's why I hesitated. I didn't know if I could do that, but it just seemed like, I don't know, the silence was deafening. So I just did it. Okay, sorry. No. I was sick on the Ides of March, beware.
Well, thank you. We hope you're feeling better.
Thank you.
And did anyone else wanted to move to approve the resolution?
I like silence either. I will.
Okay, thank you, Elric. So been moved by Elric, seconded by Brenna. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. So the other thing, we have a lot on the agenda. So instead of going to the wayfinding system, do you want to go to the Rosedale Road one because Leslie is here?
It's up to you, Madam Chair. Either one,
Okay.
that one or the ice company. So since Leslie's here, that might be a good reason.
Yeah, all right. So thank you, Leslie, for coming to our meeting. I was just looking, I'm not seeing Leslie, hold on. Is she a panelist?
She
I
went
moved
back
her-
to attendees.
Yeah, I moved her back to attendees. Would you like me to move her back to panelist?
Yeah, thank you.
Will-
All right. Okay, hi. So Leslie, welcome to the HBC meeting. If you don't mind, our schedule got a little changed, but if you want to talk about the Rosedale Road Improvements Project, that would be great.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was I didn't think I was going to be presenting about it.
Oh.
I thought it was going to be a discussion topic, and then I was just going to see if there's any other aspects that I could chime in on. I know David from the PBAC side of things, and Lisa invited us to join if we were able to attend.
Oh, okay. So if we're waiting for a bigger group, then maybe we should go to the ice company.
Good idea.
And
Let's
I think
see.
it's,
Sorry.
Madam Chair, if I can ask, do you know who put the Rosedale Road improvements on the agenda and what is being reviewed?
So the municipal.
Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
I'm sorry. So engineering had alerted us that HPC will have to review this. So I just wanted to give them a heads up about what we've been presented so far. I know that the HPC has had discussions about historic properties along Rosedale, but it's really just for information purposes only at this time, unless for some reason anyone on the commission had questions, which I could bring back to the engineering department.
So Elizabeth, is engineering going to be here or no?
No, their intention was not to come and talk about it, but it was just to alert HPC that we were told that this is going to be a project that's coming in for improvements. So it's really for information purposes at this point.
I mean, I could talk about it just for a couple of seconds to give HPC the background. This is a project that's being funded by federal Safe Routes to School dollars. And basically it's to upgrade and extend side paths, shared use side paths for pedestrian and bicyclists along the sides of Rosedale to improve the accessibility of Johnson Park School to students who live on both sides. And
Mhm.
a couple of different options that are being considered in the design. I'm sure that engineering would like to get input from this group in terms of if they have preferences between the different options that are being proposed. But again, I'd rather have someone from engineering make the presentation than have me do it. But if y'all, take a look at the map that was included in the packet, I think that would help to, prepare for a more significant discussion.
Okay, I mean, do you think that it would be smart just to set up a subcommittee and then wait until there's more information before having it at HPC? Elizabeth, what do you think about that?
Well, I think David probably knows much more than me. I think that this project at this point, David, you can clarify, I think it's really from Christopher Drive to Elm Drive. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's the scope of work right now that they're looking at.
Right. And I do think, Julie, I think a subcommittee might be fine, especially a subcommittee of folks who are familiar with the historic properties in this area. I know Ulrich has shared a lot of information about some of the assets in this area in previous meetings. But it's always a good idea to get input before things are set, right? So if we've got a few different options that are being considered, and one of them is better from a historical preservation standpoint, it would be better to get that information before the option's eliminated.
Right, exactly. I know that these projects can move pretty quickly. So that's why I was suggesting maybe a subcommittee just in case there's a meeting where it doesn't coincide, with our meetings, the main meeting. So does anyone want to volunteer to be on the subcommittee for the Rosedale Road sidewalk improvements project? Okay, Elric, yay. Thank you.
May I say one couple of things? Just that my concern about the streetscape on one side or the other are the gate posts, particularly on the north side up the top of the hill, and that long fence left from Albemarle, what's now the it's not Boy Choir anymore, but anyway, the Lambert estate, and because that really that's a feature that I'd like to preserve as much as we possibly can. But there's some precipitous areas, and I found the alternative going through the Johnson Park there, the Greenlands Park, was intriguing, and would take kids away from the traffic altogether for some stretch of that, and it's less precipitous than the roadside on either side on that long hill.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yes.
New as I am, can I just ask and clarify, what is the jurisdiction of HPC for this particular matter? Does this project travel through or transgress any historically designated area that is under our domain?
Elizabeth, do you want to answer that? It's a recommended.
So the HPC has looked at portions along Rosedale because one of the responsibilities of HPC is really to also keep the updated list of recommended historic districts, and Rosedale was one of them. And Elric did a lot of work in the past years going up and down the street and talking about certain properties which he felt were of significance. I don't think that we finished it, but we did start working on it. So that's one of the reasons that HPC would be looking at Rosedale Road.
So,
Okay.
Tom, do you want to be on the subcommittee?
No, I'm sorry, I don't. I don't know much about this. I'm just concerned that we have so many other things, or I'm imagining we got a lot on our plate, but this has been discussed prior. So I will stand by and allow myself to learn more.
Okay.
Roger, you're a cyclist.
David Cohen, maybe I could ask you a question. Do you know what the time frame is for the road improvements? You talked about the bike lane, correct? Was there
Yeah.
anything else in addition to that and any timing that you're aware of?
Right. So, and I want to say it's not a bike lane. It's a shared use.
Oh, it's a share road.
So it's for pedestrians and cyclists. And
Okay.
that's the only set of improvements that are being made are to the side paths. The timing is that the engineering is supposed to be happening this year with the actual construction, I think, next year. You know, these federal grants always take a long time. They're not as fleet as, you know, something that's really just being reviewed by local agencies. So I think there's plenty of time to be giving input, you know, but I would like to see it happen in the next couple of months.
Do you know if they anticipate that this path will continue beyond Christopher Drive? I mean, is this kind of just one of the phases that they're looking at?
That's not my understanding. My sense is that there are a lot of residences off of Christopher, and that's the whole Edel farm. So I think the sense is that if they can create, you know, an upgraded route for the residents of that area, and then the installation on the south side of Rosedale is something that is, there's nothing there right now. And I think they're trying to serve residents in Constitution Hill. So those are the two, as I understand it, the two main concentrations of potential school kids who would want to use it.
Okay. Great,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
David Shore, you had your hand up? Yeah?
So just in general, do we know yet about how much space is needed so that when we're looking in the area and we see the historic resources that would be impacted, which are probably like gate posts and fences and things like that, just like as we're visually going through there, oh, that's probably not bothered. This is here.
Remember. Oh.
Yeah. So typically a shared use side path, especially if it's bi-directional, is supposed to be a minimum of 8 feet, with 10 feet being preferable.
Mhm.
So I think the existing side path, which is on the north side, is probably about 6 feet
Mhm.
and would need to be widened. And then on the other side, to be thinking in terms of that 8 to 10 foot width is what would be required. And I actually see that Lisa Sariasol, who's the chair of PBAC, the Pedestrian and Bike Advisory Committee, is in the attendee list and has her hand up. So she might have some additional information besides what I've shared.
Deanna is also on that.
Yeah, I've joined the meeting and I'm, managing the project for Princeton. On the north side of the road, we are looking at a 10-foot wide side path, only where necessary to avoid an obstruction such as the bridge over the Stony Brook would we minimize below the 10 feet. So we are looking on the north side for a 10-foot shared use path. On the south side, it is not designated as a shared use path. We are only looking at a sidewalk, which would be 5 feet. And in the map that we provided earlier, there was the different options for the pathway. And in our meeting, we actually talked about a potential crossing as well at Constitutional Drive, or Constitution Drive, which adds another option into the different options that our consultant is looking at.
So just to follow up, it sounds pretty clear that the biggest problems would be if there was ever something significant on both sides of the road at the same point, more or less.
Correct.
Mhm. Well, that
Right.
should be pretty easy to identify, I would think, but
Yeah, we had initially looked at narrowing the road to help us avoid um, obstructions that were outside the road area, but because it is a county road, they were not willing to allow us to do that. Um,
and it has a pretty high speed limit too, so they probably can't.
Well, part of it was to work to reduce the speed limit as well. A little bit of traffic calming would help in that area.
Can I ask a question? I only rode to Valley Road School once on my bicycle, and this was back in 1960. But the way I did it was to go from Province Line Road down the hill and then through Johnson Park by the school, and then along the trolley right of way to the Great Road and up Mountain Avenue. Is it still a right of way, the trolley path there?
It is, and we'll be resurfacing it in the next month as well.
Cool.
Okay, but I mean, I find it attractive to take the kids away from the traffic.
On another point, which is out of our bailiwick, it'd be nice if we could extend a path to Province Line Road and work with Lawrence to connect to the Lawrence Hopewell Trail.
Yes. We have had conversations with the Lawrence Hopewell Trail folks. You can reach the trail through Edel Farm because there is a connection once you go across the Mercer County Bridge on Province Line. We've also been talking to them in another area, but off of Princeton Pike, trying to find a connection at that end of town.
Hi, this is Lisa Sariasol. I'm the chair of the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee, and thank you for considering this project and the ramifications from the historical perspective. The other thing that you should know that's really the biggest driver of this discussion hasn't been actually mentioned here, which is the intersection of General Johnson Drive and Rosedale, which is a real problem for students who want to walk and bike coming from Edgerston and the neighborhoods that are to the south of Rosedale, who would like to walk or bike and otherwise would need to come circuitously through Elm Road, Stockton Elm and Rosedale to get to school. So the traffic intersection management is another piece, a big piece of this project that is even more important, I think, than the side paths.
There used to be a traffic guard in the street there until about 3 or 4 years ago.
My son went to school there as a kindergartner through 5th grade, and there has not been a crossing guard there for the entire time, and he's now a sophomore in high school.
Time flies, sorry.
I'm sorry to say, I wish there had been one, but it's frankly a very dangerous place even for a crossing guard to stand.
Yes. That was why they got rid of the crossing guard, actually, and that's part of, like Lisa said, we really want to improve that intersection.
Did I read correctly that the right turn lane would going on to Elm would disappear, or did I misread that?
You misread that. What we're
the
looking
right turn lane into the parking for the DNR Greenway fields.
Yeah, the Greenway Meadows Municipal Park.
Okay.
Yep.
But I think I'm correct in saying that it looks like on the map, they're eliminating that abandoned house, the split level at the corner of Elm and Rosedale, Cleveland there. Am I right on that?
No, we're not abandoned. We're not doing anything to the structure. We're staying within our right of way.
Can I ask a question? If you're eliminating the right turn lane, I think there's two, right? Are you eliminating one into the park?
It would be if you are heading from Lawrence to Princeton on Rosedale Road.
Right.
There is a right turn lane that goes into Greenway Meadows parking lot,
Right.
opposite of General Johnson. The proposal is to look at removing that.
Oh, then how would people enter the park?
Take a right turn from the through lane.
Oh, I see. Eliminating just the lane, not the entry. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entry will stay, and
Right.
the idea is to really tighten the intersection
Yeah.
because they have found that people are using that right turn lane to work around people that are turning left into the school, and that defeats the purpose of trying to find a safe passage for pedestrians and bicyclists.
I was just going to say that, Deanna. Yeah, as a parent at Johnson Park, we bike there often, but when I am driving, there are some people who pass me on the right side and just take up that little bit of extra space that there is to go into Greenway Meadow, which is obviously not very safe for the pedestrians or cyclists coming from Greenway Meadow.
Right. Okay.
So as when David, when I got on, sorry, it was being discussed about this being federal money, and we are only in the preliminary design phase of the project. Our consultant will be doing their environmental analysis and research in order to complete a NEPA document, which is a federal environmental document for the project. And at that point, we would be coming back to you to get a letter of support based on whatever findings that they come across. So it's anticipated that this preliminary phase, will take the remainder of 2021. And then in 2022, they will get into final design, and we would be looking at construction in 2023. Unfortunately, federal money takes quite a while, but that's the timing, and we'd be looking at having, I'll get real quick, David, we're just looking to have a public meeting sometime either the summer or in September as part of this preliminary phase. Yes, David.
Well, I think you called it NEPA, does that, when you said environmental, does that also include historic resources? Will they be doing that?
Yes. Yep.
Perfect.
It's the section 106 review.
That's what I wondered. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Definitely. That's all part of it.
Good. Then maybe our work is done for us.
You'll just be reviewing what they do.
Well, Deanna, would it be helpful for us to have a subcommittee available?
I don't know at this point because it is all consultant driven at this point. They're in the survey phase, the data gathering phase. So how about if I come back in a few months with an update, and then we can determine if it's necessary at that point.
That would be great. That would be great. Well, are there more questions, or we have a very full agenda, so I want to make sure we have time for everybody. Elizabeth, are the people from the university here?
Yes, they're
Okay.
here.
So
Move on to the next.
Yeah, if we could move on to the wayfinding. We've tried 3 times to have the university talk about wayfinding, and we've been, I don't know, there's all kinds of crazy things that have happened. So let's try again.
So we've got Kristen, we've got Ron McCoy, we've got Dan Casey, we've got Michael Laplace. All coming in.
That is, okay, great. Thank you.
As long as you have Ron from the university, you're all set.
I know, like I said, we've tried and tried, and we're trying again.
I thought Kristen was making the presentation.
You can.
Oh no, I'm just a hangers-on.
Shall I jump in it,
All
Julie?
right. I'm gonna hand it over to you, Ron. It's
Okay, great. Okay.
long awaited.
Yes, I think last time we did this, and we ended up losing the Zoom link, and I just kept talking. I thought I made a great presentation, and then I came back, and at the end of the presentation, no one was there. So I've already done this before. Right, so I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you guys all stay with me. Don't go away. Don't let me lose the Zoom link. All right. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so if I don't know when the Zoom link failed last time, so but I'll start from scratch and I'll try to be quick. So we are here just to really share lessons learned and a kind of status of the campus wayfinding system. We did one of these with the 2016 campus plan. We're doing one again here with the 2026 campus plan. This title page is from our consultant, Applied Wayfinding, out of London, with offices in New York City and Canada. And I like the kind of tagline here, helping millions of people make smarter decisions. Basically, that's what wayfinding is about, helping people navigate complex environments. And that's what Applied has done for us. They began by looking at the campus. They spent 2 or 3 weeks staying at the Nassau Inn every day on campus and just bumping into people and asking them what they thought. And so they captured a lot of different stories for us. Here's just one of them, was that visitors are uncertain. Arrival is typically at the back, not at the front. People have to work it out from themselves. There's a sense of feeling like you're not really connected to the campus. It doesn't reflect the brand of the campus. Help is limited. There's not a lot of support for navigation. I think, the last wayfinding system we did was a kind of toe in the water. Now we realize that wayfinding is a good thing, and we want to have a more robust system. They provided 6 strategic recommendations, everything from reflecting the brand. Providing structure is really one of the most important things. I think that's what I'm going to talk about. Managing the welcome, making the campus visible, enabling a seamless journey with all your mobility choices, and telling the Princeton story is about the sort of additional elements of the plan. They also had these 9 principles. This principle of progressive disclosure is a kind of common principle in wayfinding, that you give enough information at the beginning of a journey. Like when you're going to an airport, you just want to know where the airport is. Then finally, when you get in the terminal, you want to know where your terminal is. Then you want to know where your gate is, things like that. So it's a progressive disclosure. Make it seamless, make it intuitive, name the places. We have too many places that are not named. One set of codes, inclusive and sustainable. So these were some of the principles. This is a little bit just a cartoon of the kind of family of signs. You'll see what I'm going to focus on here a little bit are the basic elements of the family. The monolith and the lectern are signs that have maps that help people navigate the campus. There'll be a more robust mapping system as part of this strategy. Nudge signs are to carry special messages, like this way to accessible entrance, or this way to a building that you can't find yet. Here's that family. The lectern on the left and the monolith on the right will do the bulk of the road of the lifting to get people to their destinations. In the middle is the nudge sign, which, as I said, can be used for a lot of different cases. The lectern, all these signs have been designed with a very attentive strategy toward making them accessible. So you can see the lectern is designed to be ADA accessible, so that a wheelchair user could pull up to it, have the index right in front of them, they could see the map, and everything is designed for accessibility. Also, the monolith is at an ideal height for both people standing and people in a wheelchair. This is just a little bit of a detail. These maps are printable on a PVC-free vinyl, and they're interchangeable. So we'll update the maps once or twice a year as things change, and we can always keep them up and current. This shows how the flexibility of the panels, they come off of them and then they're reset on them. And the print and mail refers to our Princeton University print and mail department, which can print the maps for us, so we'll keep them current. They'll sit on a range of ground covering, either concrete or stone. The ones that you want to walk up to would not be in grass, but the nudges might be in grass because that's just a kind of wayfinding assistant. So this is the most important piece of the different system. A map-based system gives you freedom to choose. So for example, right now, those 3 dots, that's a kind of example that we only tell you where a few of the dots are on campus with our map. The future is to aim by give people freedom and confidence to use to use the map to find any destination they want. And we do that with a new mapping system, which I'll talk about here in a second. Right now, only 8% of our destinations are supported by the directions we have on campus. So when we did this last round of campus wayfinding, we made a kind of high level decision about where are the most popular destinations. And then we use this sort of flag post, these arrows, to get people to those destinations. With the new system, what we're doing is recommending a system of zones or neighborhoods. So you'll see we break down the scale of the campus into bite-sized chunks. And then you could give someone directions to what neighborhood you're in. They come to that neighborhood, and then they'd find a map of the detail of that neighborhood. So on the left is maybe a map of the entire campus. On the right is a neighborhood map. And so you'd get to that what in this example, it's called the Nassau neighborhood. The neighborhood names have not been finalized yet. We're still working on that. And then once you're in a particular neighborhood, this is the campus map. I just want to point out the campus map is also paying attention to bicycle and pedestrian distances. So this tells you it's a 4-minute walk from this particular point over near the train station. This is showing you the different neighborhoods. So you see a neighborhood, Nassau neighborhood, University Place, Prospect neighborhood, Pine Drive neighborhood. Again, the neighborhood names are placeholders, but the general geography of the neighborhoods is something that we feel pretty confident in. Then when you get to one of the neighborhoods, this is when the map takes on a lot more detail. So you get a "you are here." You'll see that some of the buildings are rendered in 3 dimensions because they become landmarks. So you'll see the Nassau Hall, Alex Richardson Auditorium, or the chapel, or Wigan Clio, or Prospect House are rendered in 3 dimensions. Also, artwork is positioned on the map, so you can use the artwork to help identify and navigate the campus. There'll be some additional graphics. You can barely see them here. We're still working on them. But over here, you see a kind of system of chevrons on that pathway. That tells you that that pathway is not ADA compliant. So you'd look for the pathway systems that are ADA compliant. It'll tell you where there are stairs and steps. So again, if you're looking for an ADA route, you'd stay away from that neighborhood, and you'd look for the pathway system that tells you where the ADA compliance is. You'll see some amenities. You'll see, you can get information and food and beverages here at the First Campus Center. You can get information here at the admission center. And then every building on the campus will be on the directory. So in contrast to our current system, which only has 8% of the destinations, this will have 100% of the destinations. It'll tell you what neighborhood you're in. So if you're looking, you'll go to that neighborhood. When you get to that neighborhood, you'll find a neighborhood map, and then that neighborhood map will tell you where the building is. So again, that's that principle of progressive disclosure in action. This is the key on the lower left. So some of the icons, we'll talk about where the walking trails are, where the biking trails are, where bus stops are. You'll see the range of amenities for visitors that we will provide. This is just a photographic simulation of one of those maps in situ on campus. These are the nudge signs that, as I said, will be used. Sometimes the entrance to a building might be far away, and it's a kind of a reminder. It's a directional. It says that way, you're looking from a car hall, you're almost there, it's right over there. Or you're looking for the accessible entrance, you go around the building, and that'll be the accessible entrance. So they're nudges. They help you find your destination. And then this is when you look at the wider family of them, we will have the digital wayfinding is a major piece of this. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Transitional spaces is another idea that as you're leaving a building in the lobby, people might be here for a conference, or they might be here for multiple events. As you're leaving, they'll be in some of our more public buildings. Will provide additional maps in those buildings so that you can find out the next step in your journey. And the interpretive signs are signs that we already use these to tell the history of the campus. We'll use them more to tell more history of the campus. So in terms of the digital component, the maps will have a code on it that you can take the map with you with your iPhone, or your mobile device. So you can then link to that, so that the same information that's used to create the map will be now be on your mobile device. And so you can continue to navigate with that on your mobile device. We have a robust set of information that's already in existence in the university in our information technologies. What Applied is doing is organizing that information into a digital mapping system that will be tied to the print applications, to the mobile applications, and to the maps, so that whenever you need it, you can find a pathway, and you can search for an accessible route if you need an accessible route to get you from point A to point B. So a single source of information embedded everywhere, on the signage, on temporary closures, on your smart devices, and on throughout the campus. Here's an example of how that would play out if you're at the train station and you want to get over to Icon and you're looking for an accessible route. It'll tell you how far that route is, 10-minute walk, and it'll give you the path, and you can keep that with you. So this is going to be a big part of the system. I mentioned the interpretive signage. We've begun to do this over the last handful of years, where we tell a more complete story of the history of the university. So we're very happy that we've launched this sort of effort to telling the history of the campus, and we'll continue to do that. And we'll absorb this sign will become a more official part of our sign family, so that when you see one of these landmarks on the campus, you'll understand that there's a bit of interpretive history that's provided to you. We also could use that history to tell stories about the technologies on campus. So these are just suggestions that might tell the story of the geo-exchange energy system, which we're building on the campus, or of existing woodlands, or of sustainability strategies. So we'll work with our Office of Communications to kind of put a curatorial voice on the interpretive maps, interpretive signage, so that we're telling the full story that the university wants to tell. Applied Wayfinding is also working with our Transportation and Parking Services group. You may have seen some of these signs around campus, around town on Tiger Transit routes. They've worked with TPS has simplified their bus route signage to make it more intuitive and user-friendly. And they've worked with Applied to make a more user-friendly network map, to make more friendly schedules, to provide a campus map at all of the destinations. And again, that digital handoff will be part of the system, so that when you get off the transit, you'll have a digital version if you want to link to that. This little thing on the right is a potential future technology. It's called e-ink, and it works off of the solar power from the Tiger Transit post, and it provides real-time bus information. This is, I'd say, a kind of next generation. We're not going to launch these right away. We're still exploring the technology and working with our transit provider to see if we could do these. But this would be very helpful, so that you know when the next bus is coming on the different bus routes, and how far away that bus is. This is that transitional space I talked about. So if you were in a conference in the Frisk Campus Center, and your next stop was over at Richardson Auditorium, you could look at the map here and say, okay, that's where I want to go, and you could kind of get a sense of what your journey is. And keep in mind, again, you can always link to the digital map here. And then we're going to work with the existing signposts that we have around the routes into campus. These are the sort of outer perimeter of signs that get people to. Primarily, we want people to be able to park easily and then get out of their car and get onto the campus. We're making some minor changes to terminology, to words, to graphics. We've decided that the kind of chevron here is a little bit not as intuitive and easy to read, so we're going to go back to straightforward arrows so people can find their way to different destinations, either if they're seeking to go to downtown or if they're seeking one of the parking garages. So we'll simplify the messages and try to avoid ambiguity and provide clarity through these signs. This is a little bit where we are. This is probably the date of our last HPC try at this effort, but so now we're in early April. You'll see that we're coming to the end, sort of the last bit of the system development. We are working on guidelines and a management system, so this will be an online sort of resource for using the signage system. we'll begin to pilot implementation. We're going to put some tests out on campus and then have a kind of interview, bump into users and say, you know, use this, help me find a particular destination and see if people can, how intuitive the signs are, and then we'll take that feedback and modify the signs as needed. And then just a lot of other things. This is this naming consultation is this effort that I mentioned to put names behind the neighborhoods. We're still working on that. And then, you know, it's also tied into, this whole system is tied into the new garages that we're planning for the campus and to the East Campus and Lake Campus master plans. So that's it. I hope finally we've made it through. We're all online, we stayed together. And that should give you a sense of what we're trying to accomplish with our wayfinding master plan.
I mean, thank you. There are so many changes happening on the university campus and around the area that I absolutely think you're going to need a lot more wayfinding, especially with, you know, the new museum, which I know there's going to be a lot of people coming there. But anyway, are there questions for Ron? Yes, Tom.
You're muted.
Tom, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm sparing you all the background noise here in my house. Great presentation. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Quick question, 3 quick questions. Is there any issue with sign clutter in your consideration? Is there any thought about surface fading with some of the older technologies, how some of that plexiglass fogs up or fades over time? I don't suppose. And the most important question is, what opportunities or prospects do you see in the future for integrating other historical or wayfinding signs that might intersect with or overlap on the campus itself? I speak specifically about the battlefield and the flow of the Battle of Princeton that left the field, went up to Frog Hollow on the golf course, all the way up to the back lawn of Nassau Hall, and then retreated down to Kingston. Other community members might, at some point in the future, wish to collaborate or propose something to the university that would incorporate some of these other historically significant events or seek wayfinding to some of those other off-campus sites, like say Princeton Cemetery, or even on campus, the historically significant items like the battlefield, the battle flag of the USS Princeton that's in the chapel. Little poignant touchstones like that. Do you have any thoughts on those 3 questions?
Yeah, let me tie the
You've
first
already
and
had
last one.
experience in that.
Yeah, let me tie the first one and the last one together. So signage clutter is something that we're mindful of. We're also mindful that we have to we have 260 years of having not enough signage, and so we want to begin to be bold and provide just the right amount of signage. But we also don't want the campus to be a place that someone walks away and from, oh yeah, I was at the Princeton campus, I had the campus with a lot of signs. So we are very mindful of signage clutter, and that goes to the last point as we about how many additional historic sites might we want to identify. This is why we want to work with our Office of Communications to have a single sort of curatorial clearinghouse, and so that we can have a centralized storytelling around the different aspects of the university. So I imagine the Office of Communications would play the role of establishing the kind of guidance that would help us establish the most important pieces of history that we want to tell. I think we'd start by welcoming all suggestions, and that, and then beginning to filter through those. I think that there's been, as we've rolled it out, there are lots of people who want to tell stories. As we haven't rolled it out, we've talked to people. The question of, can I tell this story or that story, has come up, and we're beginning to develop some early sense of how many signs we think we might begin to populate on campus before we reach that point where it is signage clutter. The other nice thing is that this can be rolled out in phases, right? You add a few signs, You kind of step back, you say, hey, that feels good. We can take a few more, or wait a minute, that area is getting really crowded. People are getting confused and lost. Let's hold off. So I think it'll be an organic system. I think as we start, the key thing is that we have a framework. We have a logic, we follow all these principles and these systems, and then we can adjust. We'll do that with everything. So the wayfinding maps, we've identified a sort of first generation of where we think they would go. We might find out that some of them are obsolete or not being used, and some we might have missed an important location. Well, the system's going to be flexible, so we'll come back and do it. In terms of the technology, we're not using plexiglass, and we're using so the signage, the maps themselves, which are most important, will become, as I said, we can print them every 6 months and put up a new map. So we'll really retain the visibility and legibility of them.
Yeah, David, go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, this might be more of a question for Michael Laplace, but I know that we're talking about doing wayfinding in the municipality as well. And I know we've talked about sort of borrowing thematically some of what you're doing. And the question for Michael is, how far along are we? And can you comment at all about what kind of wayfinding we would do in the town in relation to what Ron's presented today?
Thanks, David. Planning along with engineering, engineering really started this discussion before I got here. There is a strong desire to have comprehensive wayfinding throughout Princeton, and particularly for public destinations, not only the university, but the municipal destinations throughout town, the parks. You know, post-consolidation, there was never a comprehensive signage system for the parks or for other, really, I guess, other than welcome signs, that's about it for signage that the municipality did after consolidation. So we think it's really important also for economic development to help people navigate in the central business district particularly, but possibly other destinations like the shopping center. And yeah, we've been talking to Ron and to his team since the university has done a lot of this research already and is developing a system and is spending a lot of resources on it. We thought it'd be great if, like, for instance, if HPC was comfortable with the look and design and concept of this signage, maybe we could kind of piggyback on that or partner with it so that the signage that you see doesn't stop on the south side of Nassau Street. It comes across Nassau Street. It helps you find the Spring Street Garage or other places to park if you're visiting Princeton. David, you may recall at the planning board when we saw the plans for the new art museum, when we asked about parking, because there's no real parking on site, just very little parking. One of the answers we got from the university is that they envision visitors to the museum parking downtown and then going over to the museum. Well, there's definitely some wayfinding that we needed to find, especially if you're not familiar with Princeton. So what staff would like, and Deanna, please chime in if I've left something out, what we'd like to get at this early stage is a notion from HPC that you like this approach that the university is doing. Maybe we could grow it to be expanded beyond the campus and kind of be a comprehensive wayfinding and information system for all of Princeton.
All right, are there questions for Michael about that? I mean, it seems that, it's helpful to get visual information along with a concept. I mean, my sense is that once you guys have some visuals that, you'd like to run by us, I think that is always helpful. But it helps a lot for us to see what the university is looking at. And I don't know, are there other questions for either Ron or Michael?
Julie, let me just mention in that busy timeline with all the deliverables that we're working on, one of them was a timeline for guidelines and management. So our guidelines will be like a user manual. It will tell us at the university how we want to, what the elements of the system are, how they should be used, how they integrate together. That in a way is, I think, capturing all of the logic and thoughtfulness of the system. And we'd be happy to share that with you, because what I have discovered is that when you work with a wayfinding consultant, some of them focus on making things pretty, which is not a bad thing, but some of them really focus on solving complicated problems. And that's what we want to focus on. We want people to feel a sense of welcome. It's easy to get around. It's predictable. I feel comfortable here. I feel confident. And there's a lot of user behavior psychology involved in that. And then that all gets captured in these guidelines. And so we'd be happy to share the guidelines with you, which, if we're on schedule, will be sometime toward the end of May. And that then becomes the kind of document of our thinking and our process. And that would be, seems to me, a great tool for the town, if the town is interested, to kind of take a deeper dive and learn about the logic behind our system.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah, Roger.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea for us to piggyback on this. And as a historic commission, the idea of being able to put historic markers on our side of the street would have great potential. I mean, Shirley, Elric, and I have started to do something about a historic marker for Palmer Square, which has gone away, as Elizabeth well knows, too. And it would give us a chance to revisit some of those, sort of possibilities for telling more of the story of the town for people who are not familiar with it. And if as Michael said, this took a lot of resources. I was going to ask what the budget for something like this is, if that's a permissible question, and to be able to use some of the groundwork that's been done to minimize the amount of resources the town would have to put into it is very attractive to me as well.
Yeah, I agree with Roger. Also, it seems very community friendly. And another thing is it's more of a safety measure also, because the students don't have to go all over looking for places. It's right there, and it solves some of the safety on campus. And I'd like to be a part of when you name some of the places, because we always name places and forget about the community that sustained a lot of the university. And there might be some names that you can use from the Witherspoon-Jackson community.
We totally agree.
Well, I was going to say that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to give a quick response to Roger, which is that I'm exactly the right person to ask about what it costs, because I don't know what it costs. I honestly can't recall how much we've invested in this so far, but
more than $1.
I would say that this is a world-class firm, and we are heavily investing in this, and it'd be wonderful if you can benefit from, as I said, some of the logic and the thinking behind the process. It'd be much more than what the town could probably afford.
Yeah, Tom, you had your hand up?
Yes, thinking internally or as a matter of process for us on the commission and others on other commissions, what do we foresee, or what does the university foresee to be the next administrative steps for approvals or further considerations of whatever's to be proposed?
Well, I think that we have an executive committee, a governance committee of senior administrators on campus. And they have basically what I've shared with you today is, I'd say, the design strategy. The mapping is one piece of it. I think the interpretive piece is from, I'm gathering from the comments here, what I think would be of interest to the HPC. And that's the piece that we have, we're probably just beginning to think about. And as I said, it's going to have to require a lot of close communication with our Office of Communications. And so I'd say that that's a process we could work with Kristen Applegate here to be a liaison between the town's interests and the university's interests. But I think that I think that the kind of the sort of recent, I think all the recent signage that we've put on the campus to talk about interpretive destinations have been in collaboration with the community, because Rivers Way and Stockman Garden are things that are of community interest. Stockton Garden, sorry.
Very good.
Well, I think it's a great time to shout out to Shirley's project for Witherspoon Jackson and the Heritage Trail and how beautifully those signs turned out. I think they're lovely and a huge contribution to the Princeton community.
Thank you. They start going up next month.
So
Thank you for that.
thank you.
Julie?
Yes.
I was just going to mention, it might be, I think there's some great opportunities to combine certain initiatives that we have going to get a really wonderful outcome. For instance, engineering department has been leading the effort to improve the intersection of Witherspoon and Nassau, right at the Fitz-Randolph gate, where we're going to bump out the sidewalk. And so the gate will have a nicer area around it, and signals being moved away from front of the gate. And, that would be great to do some signage there once that streetscaping work is being done to really bridge Nassau Street, to bring people from the campus into the downtown and to orient people from the downtown looking for the university. That might be one of our initial places where we could do some interesting signage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that area does need a lot of work. So good. Yeah, good point. Well, I guess we'll just continue this conversation in a couple months when the guidelines are published. We can review that and then maybe, think about what the town is planning and try to coordinate. But we really appreciate your presentation, Ron. It's excellent.
Okay.
And I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Yeah, fifth time's a charm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Kristen.
And congratulations. I'm so excited to
Thank
hear that
you.
Shirley's are going up. I can't wait to
Yes,
see
and
your signs, Shirley.
Thank you to the university for the Heinz Plaza.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm going to go look for that one right away.
Okay, thank
Very
you.
pleased to be part of it. Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So the next item is the Municipality of Princeton Ice Company, Historic Bridge. We got a lot of material on this. Elizabeth, are you gonna talk about this?
Yes, I can talk about it. So there's a French and Perella is the engineering consultant for Princeton on this, and I believe the HPC was involved in this bridge, where we were contacted by Friends of Princeton Open Space and other concerned residents who had alerted that there was a footbridge that was deteriorating badly. It is part of the Red Trail, if anyone's familiar with the trail system that goes through Mountain Lakes Preserve. Through time and through winter, it's gotten worse. So it's becoming a safety issue. So there is a historic trust grant in which the municipality is going to apply for, which French and Perella they are taking the lead on that. So what they're looking for HPC is a resolution supporting this grant that the municipality is going in for. And I sent everyone over a draft resolution. And what happened is this bridge, yes. So this bridge actually was not included in the original designation of the ice company. It was identified, but they didn't have the support documentation to actually include it as a contributing cultural historic resource for that designation. But now, as they've gone back further, they've seen that they found a map where they did see that bridge there, which I think was in 1926, the period of historic significance is 1884 to 1929. So that fits in perfectly. So what I didn't put in here, which I had talked to Robert von Zumbush, who was helping French and Perella and, in the capacity of Friends of Princeton Open Space. And he said to me that what he thought we should also include in this is that that HPC also supports the identification of the stone masonry arch bridge as being a significant cultural historic resource as part of the ICE company. So that way, when it comes time that they can actually include that, they can modify the nomination for the ICE company. This way, we don't have to come back in July. He says this way, if we do it once, it should cover this grant and the extension of including that feature within the district. So I know that Julie had told me that there is an error in there, that it should say April 19th instead of 29. And I thought what I would do was I would tell you how I would probably like to modify this third whereas to include what Robert had recommended, which is whereas support documentation that identifies the historic stone masonry arch bridge as existing within the period of historic significance, 1884 to 1929. Therefore, the bridge is an important cultural and historic resource associated with the Princeton Ice Company. And then another, whereas the historic stone masonry arch bridge is also a valuable and integral feature of the trail system and open space, provides passive recreation to the public at Mountain Lakes Preserve. And so that's the modification that I would recommend for this resolution.
Okay.
Just
So,
one minor point. I don't know if the official name is now the Billy Johnson Mountain Lakes Preserve. I know we're
It's
talking
actually, yeah, actually on the state and national register, it's called Ice Company, and actually parentheses, AKA Mountain Lakes Preserve. That's what the official designation is.
wait, so it doesn't have Billy Johnson at the state level?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Who is Billy Johnson?
Right. Oh, she is the, you know, the Johnson & Johnson heir that gave $3.5 million for the whole Mountain Lakes project.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
So
the
Billy is a woman.
No, it was the deceased son of. I can't.
Yeah, it's her son that died in a
Okay.
motorcycle accident.
Thank you.
So, so this resolution supports the grant to the New Jersey Historic Trust.
Right.
Okay.
For the
All right.
repair and restoration of that bridge.
Okay. All right. So, is there a motion to pass the resolution as
Julie, I'm
amended?
sorry, could I just ask if Ed has any comments? I never had a chance to pass it past Ed to see if maybe he felt that there should be anything that might not have been included in there.
I think it looks fine, Elizabeth, including your addition.
Okay.
So moved.
Thanks,
Second.
David. Okay, that was Roger, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Do you want to vote or just all in favor?
I could do a roll vote.
Okay.
Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
Yes.
Mr. Shore,
Yes.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
Ms. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. DeSenzo.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much.
Would it be appropriate for the recreation department to also do a letter?
I did recommend that the Recreation Department write a letter of support, and also the Friends of Princeton Open Space and the Historical Society of Princeton. So
Okay,
I think they're
great.
going to do, we have a pretty short time frame. It's due the 29th of this month. So everyone's working pretty hard to get that done.
All right. So the last item here we have is the Springdale Institute resident concerns retaining neighborhood character.
I think that Lisa wants to come in.
Okay.
I'm just going to promote her. Lisa, I'm going to bring you in. And so actually, she was the one that really had addressed this to our office. Is she is concerned because there is a Springdale Institute area neighborhood who they really are concerned about the character of their neighborhood, which seems to be changing over time. A lot of people, as you know, in other areas of Princeton, as people are selling their houses, moving out, or perhaps passing away, they want to sell it quickly, and oftentimes they demolish it and build something new, which is really changing the character of the neighborhood in that institute area. So, did she come in? I thought that I promoted. Yes, she's here. Okay.
Yes.
I think, and we did have a brief email discussion. You know, I talked to you about that. You know, it would have to be designated as a historic district. We'd have to extend to include it as a recommended historic district as well. Right now, the only thing is Old Manor at that point, and there is a section in the back which is a recommended district, or actually the one housing, but everything else over there is not. So I think that perhaps the neighborhood is interested in seeing, is there a way to be able to extend it, to include it, to perhaps even have buffering? But I'm going to leave it up to Lisa to perhaps expand on that.
Hi, and actually, at this point, I'm not speaking to you as PBAC. I'm speaking to you as a resident of the neighborhood of Alden Lane, Springdale, the Institute. Excuse me, I'm just changing it. The house that's of concern is number 89 Olden. It is adjacent to the director's house for the Institute of Advanced Study. It is a house that has been relatively unoccupied, though there had been caretakers at the property for many years until approximately 2 months ago. I know that this house was on the Historic Homes Tour that was organized by the Historical Society of Princeton probably 6 or 7 years ago. The house, I'm told, though I have not been inside, has very elaborate woodwork decor in certain rooms. I don't know what the historical nature of the house being on the tour, and that's part of why I brought it to your all attention. I do know that the Institute's chief operating officer, Janine Porcaro, had told me that she was keen to know what was happening with this house as it's backs to into their property. So that's one of our concerns as well.
Can you remind me of the house? I usually put the house tour together, so I'm not, it's not coming to me which house this is.
It is a fieldstone house that has had several extensions put on it. It's number 89. It's on the west side of Olden Lane. And it's one closer to Mercer Street than where the director's house is. So it's after you cross Battle coming from Mercer. And let's see, 2 houses in from that, and then you reach the house.
Okay. You'll Google it.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking at it on realtor.com right now. If you could just Google it, yeah. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can share a street view, a Google Street View, if it would be helpful. It's pretty set back from the road, so you don't see a whole lot, but I'll just put it up for a second.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember this house now.
So in fact, what you're seeing is the driveway, but more, yeah, you want to go more to the left to see what I believe is the original structure. Just behind that lamppost, there's a section of the house that looks very similar to the size and configuration of the Oldham farmhouse, original piece, the Oldham farmhouse.
I mean, my sense is because perhaps time is of the essence, and the process of a neighborhood designation is a long process. I mean, I would think the Institute would be a helpful partner. But as far as our commission goes, you know, we can personally advocate or talk to people, but I don't think there's really any official action we can take unless there's either it's a recommended district or a designated district.
So
But if you,
let me just mention that I don't necessarily expect that our neighborhood is looking to create a historic district for the entire neighborhood. I think that what's of most concern is this particular property, and none of us seem to know anything about what its historic origin was, and I've been trying to find that out. I am familiar with the historic districts in Cape May, and the fact that in Cape May you have a central historic district, and then you have contributing properties that are beyond the core of the historic district. So I'm wondering if there is such a treatment that could be considered in this case, since this was on the historic tour and it is adjacent to the director's house, which has within it the Oldham farmhouse.
well, Elizabeth, maybe you could go over, like in the ordinance, the ways that there can be protections, but we don't have anything where it's a separate unit outside of a district. So some of our districts are actually just single houses with maybe a buffer zone. But we have 20 districts in the municipality, and some have one house and some have 300, and I don't know what Witherspoon Jackson has, but it's a lot. But from a legal, I mean,
Oppenheimer house. No? I thought it was J. Robert Oppenheimer's house.
Oppenheimer's house is the director's house. This is the next door house.
Well, maybe after, I know it's not Oldham Manor.
Oldham Manor is, I believe, the director's house, because Oppenheimer was the director, and the big piece of the house was improved when he was director.
David, do you recall it from the tour itself?
I'm trying to remember, and it's not coming to me yet, but you know, I'm looking.
But it looks like it like colonial revival, and I'm thinking about that architect from Pennsylvania that did a lot of work. I didn't know he'd done Princeton, but that's my supposition.
And maybe, do you think the Historical Society might have something, more information? I'm
Well,
just saying,
essentially-
What about the Institute?
we're a little bit limited with our resources because, we've just got to get through applications and, other municipal issues, but we certainly are interested in being helpful. And if the neighborhood wants to organize any kind of designation process, we certainly would be interested in that.
So Lisa, I think that maybe some information is helpful, which is, I think, the direction Julie was going. So when you talk about key and contributing, I don't know what they do in Cape May or whatever, but those usually are associated when there is a study for a historic designation. So there is a recommended historic district, which is typically on the master plan. Your neighborhood is not in that, but that does give some protection. It's a limited protection. So historic preservation serves as a advisory, but it only serves as an advisory if, let's say, the person wanted to demolish the house and build something that would require a variance, or they had to go to the planning board. If they can do it without going to any of those boards of jurisdiction, then HPC does not review it. So again, so there is a certain amount of protection with that, but I can't say that it's going to give as much as you would look at. I think the only other one would be more of a buffer. I don't know what the other HPC members feel about that. I mean, I actually haven't worked that much within a buffer. So, but I think that does give more review by HPC. Is that correct? Can anyone on the commission confirm that? Because I think that there was some work within the Institute, right, which was in the buffer, that they got full review of it.
Well, and there again, I think we need to also have the cooperation of the Institute in this kind of thing. So I don't know if there's a lot we can do today, but on a personal level, I think we can keep our eyes out for, more information and send it on to you. But I know we have.
I just had a
you.
quick question about the buffer. I don't know where to find out more information about how that works and what that means.
So within the historic preservation ordinance, it does talk about the buffer district, and it is shown on the overlay map, which is the historic preservation overlay on the zoning map. I think David probably has some information. David, sure.
Well, I don't really have information, but I was wondering if it would be possible for perhaps you and me and anyone else, one or two others, to go walk by that property and get a better sense of it, and then take a look at where the Princeton Battlefield Historic District comes to already. And I will try not to say anything here. I'm thinking. But let's go take a look. Let's figure out what we can figure out, because we're being asked, we're here. It's obviously not something that's formal business for us yet, but I feel like we need to respond to a concern like this and maybe not take up any more time in this meeting.
All right. Well, thank you, David. Thanks for your help with this. And thanks for bringing it to our attention. We do still have a concept review and an application to get through, and I wanted to make sure that we have time for that. Do you have, Elizabeth?
Yes.
Do you have the Louisa and
yes, I can bring the applicant in. So Lisa, what we'll do is David, myself, and perhaps another member will go out and we'll reach out to you after doing a site visit, okay?
Maybe Tom would like to come with us?
Oh, I would love it to do that indeed. Thank you, David. I would love it.
Okay. All right, great.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me bring in Louisa. Louisa, could you put on your video for us, please?
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
You're the only one here for the concept, correct?
No.
No, who else is here with?
Oh, the owners are coming.
Okay.
They're here. Katie McLennan.
Oh, yes, I apologize.
That's okay.
Great.
Thank you.
There we are.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
So, Louisa, do you want to, we were able to get the documents to look at the concept review for 86 Lee Avenue. And maybe you just want to run through what the proposed, what the idea is.
Okay. Do you want me to share the screen? Or do you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
For them or?
Oh, why don't you share the screen? That would be great.
Okay. All right.
Katie?
Yep.
Yes.
And so just to remind the commission that the applicant did come in November 2020 for a concept. And at that time, I believe that they were an interested buyer and now they are the property owner.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, and so Katie and Jim, I think, are going to, be a part of this presentation also. So Katie, do you want me to give an overview? Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I can, if you want to do an overview, Louisa, that's fine. I think what feels important to us is that we were very grateful to have that initial concept review back in November with the committee, and have done a lot of work to integrate the feedback that we got from that initial meeting way back when we were trying to get a sense of what potential this space had, and help think through some of the ideas and how to keep the home and the architecture sympathetic to that of the surrounding neighborhood. So based on that initial meeting, we've been working closely with Louisa to put together all that, and are happy to be back here and thinking through it again with the committee. So that's sort of the introduction of where we are and why we're here. So, and I'm happy to say more, Louisa, if you want to.
Well, why don't I just do an overview, because there are some new members of the committee.
Okay, great.
The commission, welcome new members. So this is a double lot on Lee Avenue at the intersection basically of Ray Street. It's 86 and 88 Lee Avenue, and you can see here in red are the two lots that are not two lots. Actually, that's one lot, but just for purposes of talking about them, it is one legal lot. The house is on what would have been number 86 Lee, and number 88 is actually a vacant just garden at the moment, but it's a large lot for the neighborhood. Okay, here's the survey, so you can see, oh my gosh, sorry. that, anyway, this is the survey. So you can see there's a house, a 2.5-story frame dwelling, and then there's a garage. This is Lee Avenue's here. And there's a masonry garage. It's actually a wood frame garage with a stucco finish in the rear corner, in the northeast corner. There's a little shed here, and other than that, this part is vacant. This is the driveway that belongs to the house. So we're not running into any zoning issues in terms of setbacks and things like that at the moment, certainly with the house, because we are 8 foot off the property line. We've got plenty of space over here. The front yard fits with everybody else along the street, so that all fits really nicely. Here's the house. Looking at it from Lee Avenue and Race. So it's pretty tight here. It's only 8 feet between the two neighbors. It currently has aluminum siding. Some windows are original, some have been replaced. 2/2 double hungs. The shutters are not original shutters. But the porch is original except for the railing. So here's the house looking straight on. And what we're proposing is to push out the rear, a 2-story addition in the rear, and then to push out to the west toward the empty part of the lot, to do a bump out on the 2nd story for one of the bedrooms, almost like a window seat type of thing, bay window. And also a 1-story addition towards the west of a family room. And we're just in the concept phases, but that's what we wanted to come and talk to you about here. So this is kind of what we're talking about with the bump out, and it wouldn't flush with the front, it would set back. And then again, this is the 1-story addition also set back from the street. And that's what the west side of the house looks like at the moment. This is the property line. And this is kind of a concept of what it would be if we did some bump outs on this side. So you can see they're quite far away from their neighbors. This is the garage building in the back. And we're gonna renovate this building and hoping to replace some of these openings with more glass so that it's a little bit friendlier and updated. So this is a concept of putting glass where those barn doors are now. Those are swinging barn doors, so they're not particularly practical for use of the space. I also have, is this it? Nope, that's not it. Okay. I also have the drawings, which we can just review quickly. This is the site plan. This is the original house. This is where we're talking about bumping out for the rear. This is a little 2nd-story bump out. You see, this is the front of the house here. And this is the bump out, so it's set back quite far. And then this would be the new addition to the west, 1-story. Oh, and you can see down here a little bit more clearly. Elevations. This is we're talking about bumping out straight out the full width of the house to the back. And here's sort of a little bit of an articulated roof line back there, but of course we would never see this from the street. I don't even think you'd really see this from the street because you're so far back. I think pretty much what you're really gonna see, but in any case, the idea is to continue. Right now it's aluminum siding. We're not talking about replacing that siding at the moment, but we would continue with a lap clapboard siding and similar windows to what's already there. Here is
right, so in this district, yeah, we do not have any jurisdiction over anything that's not visible from the public right of way is out of our scope.
Exactly. So, but I mean, just in case you're able to see it at an angle. So it's really kind of this that we're talking about in this little bump out here. that you would see on the west side. And possibly the front facade of the garage. So I think, so we wanted to talk to you today about these little additions. And then just probably some minor renovations and replacement of some of the materials. For example, it's a flat seamed tin roof at the porch, which is completely rusted out. So we would likely replace that with a standing seam metal roof. It's not that, we're not going to do a flat seamed copper roof. That just doesn't make sense here, and tin doesn't either. So, but metal does. So, and then replacing probably the railings on the porch steps, which are not original, and we would do those in a manner that would complement the existing railing that's there. And then the other thing we wanted to talk about was the idea of possibly doing a different color siding on the bump outs, not white.
Okay. Do you want to go back to the other screen, and then I can see people better that way.
Yep.
Sorry. So as far as the windows are concerned, are you interested in replacing the windows?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at the moment.
All right. Yeah, David.
I had three questions. The first one is, I'm not sure I'm seeing it on the drawing correctly. On the bump out to the side, which is one story, on one elevation, it looks like you're putting a chimney up on it, but I don't see that how that appears from the street.
Oh, I think it's just not rendered in brick, but it's there. It's
Oh, I do see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Next question is, on the second floor bump out, I think you talked about for one of the bedrooms, you use a window that looks like it's very much like the original, or the windows that are in the original part of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the front facade of the addition is where I'm having some trouble. The relationship of voids to solids is very different than on the existing house, and the windows are quite different. I wonder if you could talk about that.
So I think the spacing is, I don't know, we can look at that. The windows, we just decided that we wanted to do a little bit something different on the new parts. So we are continuing with, we wanted to stay in keeping and in scale with what's already there, but not necessarily just keep copying the same window around and around and give it a different feeling in a different sense.
So I guess I understand about the scale of the windows. It's the scale of the blank space is so much more prominent than on the existing house. I don't know if bigger windows would make a difference, but something just seems very different to me there.
Okay.
The scale of the blank space?
Yeah.
Can you be a little bit more?
Well, part of our what we're to look at is the relationships of voids to solids.
Okay.
And this is just very different relationship from the original house.
Louisa, can you put that up, that image?
Hold on.
Yeah.
So you're talking about this down here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See if I can blow it up. So right here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Not that the addition is supposed to match the original house at all. But it just feels like the contrast is rather severe.
I'm wondering if it's the style of the windows.
Yeah, that could be part of it.
I think it's the style of the windows are just so different from.
And they're a little bit lower, it looks like. The tops of them are a little bit lower.
They are.
In perspective.
Mm-hmm.
4 levels lower.
Yeah.
I think it's the style of, I think if the style of the windows were changed, it would flow a little easier.
Or maybe if the windows were a little wider, then it would be less solid and more, you know, more
Yeah,
void.
I think Julie, you've got it exactly. Julie and Phil, together, that would make sense.
Can you say that one more time, Julie? What you, if what was wider?
Oh, if the windows were slightly wider, then it would appear that there would be less material between the windows. And so maybe not as, I don't know. Like David was saying.
I think the siding is so horizontal and the window line is also horizontal. So it's kind of probably playing a little bit of, you know, playing tricks on your eyes. It definitely stands out. It looks different because of that, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, if this is set back, I don't know what it is, 20 feet or something. And if it's
probably 40 feet from the street, yeah.
Oh my goodness. If it's set back 40 feet and it's in a darker color, it probably won't be that noticeable just because it's not flush.
And if there's any landscaping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a question. I'm looking at the color picture of the side of the house and it has like a black drawing. Is that the same as what's shown on the screen?
Yeah.
And it's in the middle of the two windows that's here in the color picture?
So that's just kind of a quick kind of rendering of the volumes coming off the west side. So if you look at this elevation here, that's kind of like the bump out is here, and then this one-story addition would be here.
Right. So it's between the two, the color pictures between the two windows.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I mean, I think that keeping in mind that it's 40 feet from the street, we probably won't see a lot. What color are you thinking of for the other siding?
Just sort of dream weaving at this point, but not committed to anything. We liked the idea of something that blended into the color of the garden. We were thinking a deep, deep hunter green, a dark, dark green, if not, yeah. But also are very interested in hearing if there are limitations there within the district in terms of what colors would be acceptable, and also any other ideas from the committee about what you could imagine being any additional color other than the white.
So just to clarify, any painted surface in the district can be painted any color that the owner wants to paint it, but any new surfaces are under the jurisdiction of the HPC. So we would have a say on the addition part under our ordinance. So yeah, thank you for, it's a great idea to come for a concept review, really smart. Yeah. So are there, I mean, I think a dark siding, whatever color it is, being that far away from the street is not going to be that noticeable. But I don't know if maybe others have opinions.
I have a comment.
Rita, Elric?
No, I don't really.
Hey, may I?
Yes, Elric.
I think my notion is it's not trying to appear as part of the original fabric of the house. It is distinctly separated, and it would be anyway by the roof line and by the exterior chimney and whatever, particularly in the back. I couldn't care less. I think that having big windows facing south is absolutely fine. The other place, I kind of wish I could see 2/2 windows on the side facing the street. But as I said, it's clearly of a different period. In my view, I would just as soon see the cornice of the same depth as the one on the porch. But again, overall, I'm persuaded that this is a distinct addition to the building. I do have one question about the chimney, and that is, does it meet code? Is this for a gas fireplace, so it's just fumes? It would seem otherwise it's awfully close to the house to be as low as it is depicted.
Well, it's the code is that it has to be 2 feet above the closest roof and 10 feet away horizontally. And that's what it is here. I know, I agree with you. I think it looks short, but it actually does seem to meet the code.
Okay.
All right, are there other
I also wanted to
comments?
say how appreciative I am that you've come before us twice on this, and that several things that we mentioned at the earlier meeting seem to be reflected in this plan. So that's much appreciated.
I think it was your comment about the French door out onto the garden, actually, that was one that has stayed with us very much in the thinking of that west edition. But yeah, it's been helpful. Thank you.
Are there other questions, comments, suggestions?
You know which color brick you want to use?
We haven't gotten that far. Do you have any thoughts?
No, but I would just say when it comes to selecting colors, you probably want to pick your brick first and then find a color that complements the brick and then move on from there.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Can I just ask for clarification, Julie, on what you were saying about the color of the house? It sounds like the existing house is something that would be to the owner's discretion to choose a color. Is that right?
Yes.
Any addition is
That's right.
Is not. So I mean, the range of colors, not that we're necessarily entertaining them, but are there any limits as to which color could be used on the exterior? We would, yeah, considering the surrounding houses. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that to me, it seems like any darker color is going to recede because of how far it's set back from the street. So whether it's a dark blue or a dark green or a dark gray, to me, or not even that dark, honestly. I mean, to me, it doesn't really seem that important, but maybe other people have opinions on that.
Basically, I agree with you. I think that either it should be the same color as the house, but if it's not, then you're trying to point out that it's an addition, then having a real contrast is an advantage. And the fact that it would be dark, and between that and landscaping, it would sort of recede from the original fabric of the house is an appropriate decision.
But I don't think I don't know, I don't think anyone has a specific preference, whether it's green, blue, gray, brown, whatever.
Okay, yeah, no, I think I was thinking about the original house and plus the addition, and is there a difference in terms of what's allowed or expected about either?
No, so the original house, it's up to your discretion, whatever color you want to have it.
Okay.
Because it's an existing structure and it's part of our ordinance that says that's your decision.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but just to clarify, Katie, because right now your existing house has aluminum siding, right?
Yes.
So if you replace that aluminum siding, then it would be the purview of HPC because it would be a new surface.
Aha, okay, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Also,
Except that-
Katie,
except-
this is
wait a
just an
second.
idea because I
Right.
recently redid I dealt with a lot of this stuff myself, but if you wanted to get away from so much horizontals, you know, the siding does come in vertical batten. You could do some of that, let's say on one story and then go horizontal on another story just to break up some of the, you know, the horizontalness of the whole look.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can switch off with that however you know, and break it up a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was something also that I was going to ask. How would you feel if we went with vertical siding or something like that, something different on the new parts? So it sounds like that would be okay. Okay.
I mean,
But okay, sorry. I just would like to go back to the siding of the original house. So underneath the aluminum, the original cedar siding is still there. So, I mean, at the moment, we're not talking about removing that siding, but we're not, I don't know. If we keep that original siding, is that a new surface or?
I don't think so. I think that's an existing surface.
Okay. So if it turns out the original cedar siding is in good shape and they decide to hold on to it and just restore it and repaint it, then that could be a new color. Sounds like.
Right. I mean, that's my sense. I don't know, Elizabeth, what do you think?
I think that because it's not the surface that's visible at this point, it would be considered a new color.
Huh. Okay.
Okay.
In any case, I think most members are agreeing that having the addition a different color than the house is quite helpful. I think one of the things we appreciate is when you know, people don't try to fake an historic addition. They actually make it distinctively separate, and this is exactly that.
Interesting. Okay.
Will the garage be painted to match anything?
Ideas?
It's possible.
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of glass on the garage, and I'm wondering if maybe that might sort of complement the back of the house.
Yeah. I mean, that was the hope, is that they would be in conversation, the garage and the back addition.
Right.
So from the back, viewing the house from the back, you know, very much feeling that connection.
Yeah, I mean, currently the garage doesn't complement the house at all.
No.
And I was curious, are you going to do anything with the window in the gable there, or?
Window.
Maybe at some point down the line.
Is that the attic?
That's the hayloft in the
Oh yeah.
garage.
Yeah. I also some thoughts about it, but we'd like to. Yeah.
At this first iteration, probably not.
I think ideally we'd like to put a window up there, bring some more light in the garage.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea.
Okay.
All right. Any other suggestions?
So I just had two more items to talk about. So there's an existing chimney, block chimney that runs up through the house. It's actually, oops, sorry, wrong one. Let me just get to the page that you can see from, oh God. Right. Can you see it there? You can see it there. Right?
Yeah.
Right here. And we would like to, the plan is to remove it. We're going to replace the heating system and all of that kind of stuff. We don't need the chimney for that. And we'd like to remove that. in the renovation. We'd also like to, there's a small, newer, probably from like the 80s addition on the back that we would like to remove as we get started in this process. And I'm wondering, we already have a demolition permit from the town, and we've started some demolition on the inside just to get things going. And I'm wondering if it would be okay to proceed with the demolition of the chimney and that rear addition before we get, you know, final approvals from you for the final scheme, because we know for sure we're not going to want to have those. So I was wondering if we might be able to just talk about that today.
I mean, it seems reasonable to me. If we're not, I don't think any of us are that concerned about an addition from the 80s. And I don't know, what do people think about the chimney? Any comments?
It's probably not very visible from the sidewalk either side.
Let me see if I can get a better. You don't really see it from the front, for sure.
Yeah, that's across
really
the street.
only from the side that you would, the west side that you would see it. It would be really helpful if we could get rid of it, I have to say. But
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any objection to removing the chimney. Anyone else?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. Great.
okay, thank you so much. That's really, that's wonderful. That's really helpful.
I just want to ask Ed about that demolition of that rear addition, because I know that, Ed, we've had demolition, partial demolition on other applications where typically they do have to go through the protocol of the demolition process.
Well, we have a demolition permit from the town already.
Well, sometimes
from John Pettinati. Is that what you're talking about, or?
For your rear addition, did he give you a demolition?
We have it for everything, with the idea that it wasn't really part of. I mean, we just did it for everything, because
so demolition within a historic district actually does require HP's, the officer's approval, in addition to the building departments, but there is another process in which demolition occurs where there's a protocol. So that's what I was asking Ed about, because we have had frequent ones recently that have been done. And
so just to let you know, we got the permit for everything. I mean, at least we asked for it. I didn't personally get the permit, so but we have purposely not moved ahead with that because I wanted to talk to you all about it first. And so that's why I'm bringing it up today at the concept review. If we need to wait and get your final approval at the final review, we can do that. Or if there's a different protocol that we need to go through, maybe Elizabeth, you could talk to me about that separately, and then we could do that.
Well,
we want to do the right thing. We're not trying to tear something down, you know, that's not supposed to be torn down. But, you know, if we can keep the process moving along, that would be helpful.
I guess, Lee, you ought to check your demolition permit. In other words, to make sure that it's for inside the chimney and outside. And the rear is obviously not visible from the street. But Elizabeth is correct. Normally, the protocol is if you're going to demolish any part of a structure within an historic district, you need demolition permit from the, or permission rather, not a permit, but permission from HPC.
Okay, how do we get that?
Well, you would ask for it when you come back in for your application.
Okay, so can I ask for it today?
Well, no, you've got to give notice 3 times to the neighbors. There's a whole big process involved with trying to get a demolition permit for demolition permission for an historic structure.
Okay, all right, then I guess we'll wait.
We can work with you on that. We can go through the process.
Well, we have to come back to you for final, right? So.
You do.
Well,
I guess we'll just,
I just have a question for the commission. Given that we've seen this twice in concept review, are we confident enough that we could do it administratively? I guess I just like the feedback. Maybe we can go back to the
I
regular
hate to
screen.
set a precedent, but I don't see any, I mean, we certainly have had the opportunity to review twice now, and I think we're all pretty pleased with what we've seen.
Mhm. Because if that's possible, then we could just not have to wait for the next commission meeting. And it would just be through Elizabeth and I.
With the demolition
Do I know?
commission or the whole thing?
Well, I think it would have to be the whole thing, because I think they'd have to get approval on the project and then issue the demolition permit. Or, so it would be approval and then demolition.
Right.
Yeah.
How much of the rear are you demolishing?
it's 8 feet by 16 feet.
Okay.
It's a little bathroom and a little mudroom thing, 1 story. I don't even know if I have let me see if I have a picture of it. I can show you a picture of it. I just have to find a picture.
I probably have a picture. Also,
I'm thinking that it's not going to be an issue with HPC, but I think just to follow the protocol, it would just be a process that needs to be done.
Are you redoing the roof, or it's just going to be patched when you take the chimney off?
Well, I don't think the roof has been reshingled in many, 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 many years.
Right.
So
You
it's
have to
very
do-
likely we're going to replace the shingles.
Right.
But certainly at the start, if we were to take the chimney down tomorrow, we would simply patch it until the time came to
get a new
redo
roof.
the roof. Yeah.
All right. So, are we?
Tom had his hand up.
I have a question, kindly. Can we give any more clear direction to this applicant as to who she and he can go to for their permissions for the demolition?
Well,
We're working on it.
I appreciate that very much. We would happily do what we can to get it moving. We're in a house across the street right now on Lee Avenue, where we've been for the better part of a year, and our lease runs out in July. So we're eager to get moving with all, as it becomes possible. But certainly
All right. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Oh, yeah.
We'd love to take it down.
So I think we could do all of this administratively if everyone agrees.
I agree, Julie.
Before we do that, can I kindly just ask Shirley, since she knows this area better than all of us, is there anything particular that you're seeing, Shirley, that is of concern to you for preserving the character and the history of this area? Or are you comfortable with the process as it stands?
I'm comfortable with it. I was concerned at first because I thought this extension that I'm looking at here was going to be glass. I don't know why. Maybe because it was a black drawing. But yes, I'm okay with it. Thank you for asking.
Okay. Yep. All right.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, as an alternate, I'm okay with this to go to administrative. It looks like it's been well reviewed, and we want to keep everything in good balance here to help these people move this project along.
All right. So do you want to take a vote? Elizabeth, would you be more comfortable if we voted on moving it to administrative approval?
Or I could do that.
Okay. Oh, so there has to be a motion and a second. Sorry.
So move.
Second.
Okay, great.
What does our motion say?
Thank you.
Well,
What's that?
The motion would be to authorize the applicants to remove the small structure in the rear, and then proceed with the rest of their plan to come back to the board.
Come back to the board. or
I
come back
thought,
to-
I thought to proceed with the rest of the plan to be administratively approved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yes.
it is.
But do we have a formal application, or do you just have a concept review?
You only have a concept review.
We need an application, Julie.
Oh, well, could you fill out an application and then we deem it administrative?
You mean fill in the application after today, and then you would deem it administrative and approve it?
Yeah.
Well, we've never done that before.
Yeah.
I mean, normally, Julie, you have an application. After you go through concept once or twice, you have a formal application that comes before the board. And then the board reviews the final details and then would approve the application. The application is basically prepared. We could get it in and it would take you 5 minutes next month. But in the meantime, if you adopt the resolution to allow the applicant to go forward with the demolition of that little piece in the back, they can continue working on the project subject to formal approval. But I still think they need an application to be approved.
Okay. All right. Well, Elizabeth, do we have, can we get them, can they be like first on our agenda for next month?
I think that we have to talk about next month's agenda. We might maybe have a special meeting. I believe that we're going to have 2 university projects coming in. It has to do with the Eden Club, of them trying to relocate it across the street and do demolition and then put a new development in. I'd like to do both projects at the same time because they are related. As Ed said, this is an application probably that's not going to take too long. I mean, we could do that, but I'd love to be able to do the university all in one meeting. So,
okay.
Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. We can definitely get them in. Whether you want to do it at a regular meeting or if you want a special meeting for either one of those projects.
Okay.
But we envision this as
All right, well,
being
maybe
a brief review.
And I guess,
I mean, maybe
Lisa, how are the drawings pretty much finished? How much more work and time would you need to get it?
I was hoping to be able to get you everything by like very early next week. Because I wanted to give you time to deem it complete and review it and all of that before the May 17th meeting. So I believe it's May 17th. So
Would it make a difference?
Prepared to work pretty hard to get it, everything to you so that we really want to keep this moving along.
Yeah,
So, Madam Chair, what I would recommend is when it comes in and when it's deemed complete, that we try to get it on the next meeting, and then we'll work with the university project the best we can.
okay. Okay.
So can I just ask one thing?
All right.
So if you are going to give us some preliminary permission to remove the rear addition, could you also give us permission for the chimney?
Yeah, I think it would be the same.
Oh, okay.
Permission.
I didn't hear that mentioned. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Is it at all feasible, and would it change anything if the application that we're talking about was submitted within the week? And again, is that even feasible? But if it was, would that make a difference in terms of whether this could become an administrative approval?
No, I think Ed's our lawyer and he's advising that it has to be board approved. So I don't think that would make a difference.
Okay.
But
right.
I do think, Julie, even with the university coming in, this matter could be listed the first matter on the 17th. And that will not take up very much time. And that would give opportunity to get in the revised plans to make sure that the front looks with the windows that you suggest and so on. And if it falls into line with what you discussed today, in addition to the permission to take down that little piece on the back and the chimney, the matter could move forward immediately.
Okay. All right.
So Ed, can I ask clarification? So as far as the demo goes, we could review that administratively, but would they still have to do the same noticing in the paper and everything?
No, I think this in the rear of the property and the chimney, which is not visible, is de minimis. I think we can knock off the back and take down the chimney administratively.
Okay, so everything else, they don't have to go through the normal protocol for the demo?
Yeah, just finalize the plans and we'll see what it looks like. And if it took 10 minutes, I'd be surprised.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. So Louisa, you're staying on because we are now moving on to John Street, 180 John Street.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right, can you guys give me 1 second to get myself organized a little bit here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a quick
No problem.
change.
We have
It's like
to,
the theater. It's like a quick
change.
change.
yeah.
Okay, hang on, I gotta switch gears. All right, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that with this 86 Lee. It's very helpful. Okay. One. Oops, oh gosh. Okay, hold on, I just have to open one thing. Okay, it's just me for this one.
Okay.
Sorry, here I come.
Now, Elizabeth did write a report.
Yes.
And so, Elizabeth, you don't have to read the whole report, but if you want to go over the key points,
Okay, yeah,
that would
so
be great.
to kind of get it moving along, I'm just going to identify the property and then kind of hit the key points. So the applicants are Andrea Morev and Konstantin Sinkovich, who have filed their application with the office, which is the property that's identified as block 1704, lot 17 on the Princeton tax map with the address of 180 John Street. So it's located in the R4 zone of the former Princeton Borough and sits within the Weatherspoon Jackson Historic District. The property is situated on the west side of John Street between Quarry and McLean Street. The applicant wants to renovate the existing house, but in addition, add a new dwelling unit and connect it to the existing house to create a duplex. The zoning officer has reviewed this and he has identified there are no variances required with it. So as everyone knows that this was part of the Weiss preservation inventory, it is considered a contributing property to the overall setting and significance of the Witherspoon Jackson Historic District. So I'm just going to go faster. Let's see. So this property contains 0.186 acres, which is actually a fairly large lot within this block of John Street. So it also slopes from the southwest property corner to the northwest property corner. The house is located close to the north property and close to the right of way. There is an existing street tree that fronts onto the property. And other improvements of the site are going to include reusing the existing curb cut and the driveway apron to extend that driveway to the rear of the property to provide 3 new parking spaces. It's going to be installing a new trash enclosure along the parking area. It's going to be installing new air conditioning units for each dwelling unit behind the building, and it's going to be installing new foundation plantings and plantings around the parking area. So as far as the original house goes, those modifications are the south side, the south elevation of the building has a bump out. And so it's not a completely straight plane. So what the applicant is doing is they're going to be creating a straight plane by pulling in part of the bump out and extending part of the front side area so they can connect a new unit to that. They are also going to be raising the roof line in the back. I think it's about 5.5 feet. It was just scaled. And that is to be able to, and in addition, adding 2 dormers, one on the north and south elevation. And this is going to be able to accommodate an extension of their 2nd floor. And on the attic, which is going to be a new attic space, they're going to be adding a new bedroom and a new full bathroom. All the windows are going to be replaced. And the new addition are going to have some paired 2/2 windows. On the north side, it's going to be centered over the lower windows, and on the other side, it's going to be smaller 2/2s on the attic space that faces the front of the house. The shingles are also going to be replaced. There's going to be new gutters. It's going to be painted the same color as the fascia and the corner boards. There's also going to be new lighting on the front of the buildings by the front doors and the porch. And the existing railing on the existing house is also going to be replaced with a new metal railing that's going to be painted black. The existing porch posts are going to be stripped down, sanded, and repainted. The front door is going to be replaced with a new door, which is intended to match what's already there. The siding is currently aluminum siding, which will be placed by Hardy Plank lap siding with a smooth finish. It'll come with the pre-finished color of light mist color. The trim and the siding, the trim will be Boral True Exterior, and it'll be painted to match the siding. The windows will be painted white, the trim around the windows. The new Parge coat stucco will be along the porch concrete walls, the porch flooring, the steps, and the foundation. So the new unit is really almost the same square footage. It's going to be pretty much identical. It is going to have a bump out on its west side, which is going to be the little change. Currently, the existing house has 3 bay, and the new unit is going to be 2 bay, which faces onto John Street. The front entrance is going to be a little different. The existing house has a full width covered porch. This will have a small covered porch for the entranceway. Let's see what else. And I think that that's pretty much it. Then I'm just going to go to the comments. So I think that there was a lot of time and thought put into this design. The applicant, or actually Louisa, had come in previously for a concept review. And so I know that one of the comments that she had made is that she didn't want it to be identical. So that's why the front is a little bit different. Some of the windows, she's got paired windows. She has 2 bays versus 3 bays. But I think that most of that identifies this as being different, but is still compatible with the existing house. So I think that there was a good job of that. Further thing is that I think it's appreciated that the existing house is going to be having some new siding, new windows, new roof material, which is always necessary to maintain a historic house in good condition. These are some of the questions I had offered for the commission to consider, so I'll try to go through them fairly quickly. The applicant indicated that there's varying size windows on the existing house. There was only one dimensioning analysis that was provided, but my understanding is that the windows on the existing house are replacement windows. The analysis that was provided was within the 1/4 inch differential, which is acceptable for HPC. If HPC is okay with it, that just as long as the applicant or their architect confirms that the other windows are within that same differential, I would recommend for them to accept that, assuming that all the fenestrations are not altered, that it will stay the same with these removals, with these replacements. Another comment that is offered is that the rain gardens, a lot of the rain gardens that we see are very geometric. And I think it's important to understand that land is a valuable resource, and it could be designed in a way that still looks appealing instead of just kind of creating a space where you're trying to provide some, recharge for groundwater, for runoff. So I think that if there's an opportunity for the engineer to look at that and perhaps design it in a more naturalized way, and perhaps even bring it down to the north side of the property, because the north side in the backyard is the lower part of the grade as it's grading from the northwest to the northeast. It's kind of sloping in that direction. So that's a consideration that I thought is worth the HBC to think about. The other thing is that the land use engineer should look at the emergency spillway, because the way it's designed, it looks like it's actually, if there is an emergency overspill, that it's actually going to go into the neighbor's property. So that's something, and also to the back of the house. So that's something that that the land use engineer should look at. Plant material in the rain garden should be wet tolerant, and that it's recommended the arborists also look to make sure that the plant material that's selected is not an invasive species, and if it is, for substitutes to be provided. So let's look at the landscape plan that's over by the parking area and along the southern property line. So along the southern property line, that there's a wooden fence there, and there's a hatch type of symbol that's provided in a linear form within the driveway or adjacent to it. So I'm assuming that that is the red osier dogwood, which they are proposing. They don't actually specify how many, and within that space, they should actually be able to provide a lot more. So I think the landscape plan should be updated to show actually how many plants are there, and the quantities be corrected as well. It's also recommended within that area, because that osier dogwood is a shrub which has beautiful red bark, so it has really great interest in the wintertime in addition to the regular season. But I think that there might be an opportunity for them to put some maybe smaller ornamental and shade trees within that space to provide some shade and diversity of plant material within the parking area. It's also recommended that perhaps an additional street tree could be placed right before the driveway apron. There seems to be enough space to kind of provide a little bit more street tree within the neighborhood. Let's see what else. So one of the things that I thought was really worth talking about was the new roof line, which faces the street. I think that one of the comments was that the HPC concept, they were hoping that the roof line would go down, but I think that it is set back. But the one item within that I look at is that front-facing gable. It seems a little bit, it doesn't seem to really fit well with the two units and the roof line that exists on those, which is the end gable. And so that's something that I thought maybe HPC would look at and see if they were okay with it, or if perhaps they provide some recommendations on what might make it a little bit more sympathetic to the existing house and to the neighborhood. There is new lighting, which is the Milla LED. It is proposed at 3,000 K. Typically, HPC likes them at a warmer spectrum of 2,900 or 2,700. And also, if the applicant could specify which size it is, there are two sizes on there. That's also the case in the back. The back is not visible, so I don't think the HPC really cares what size they have. But again, the illumination, that should be specified and perhaps kept within the spectrum that HPC usually recommends. The new front railing, recommend that have a matte finish, and that all utilities be underground. So that's pretty much for the comments for HPC commission, and the other ones were left for the applicant to address.
All right, well, I'll hand it over to Louisa, and if you want to share your screen on this and talk about any modifications that happened since the concept review.
Okay, yeah, I think
Louisa, excuse me, we got to swear you in for this one. So is your testimony truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I know there are some new members, so I thought I would just go through the photos again and kind of quickly talk about the project. Quickly. I know you don't want to be here for too much longer. And then I'm happy to address all of Elizabeth's comments and any of your questions. I think, so let me just, whoops, I lost you. Hold on, let me share the screen. Okay, all right. So here we are, 180 John. So this lot has been here for a long time. The house has been here for a long time. As Elizabeth's report talked about, it was even before this 1902 map. And it's always been it's a pretty good sized lot in the neighborhood, and it has been. So these are some old pictures from the Historic Society of what John Street looked like. Here's the lot now. This was the old water tower lot right next door to the south, which is up the hill, which is kind of confusing, but it's up the hill but south. And then going down the street, the charcoal inn is next door, and then going down the street for more residential neighborhood, as you're all familiar. And then behind is the University Merwick development. Across the street directly actually is the Masonic Lodge. And then these are just some other, there's a lot of variety in this neighborhood, of course, as you're aware. We're talking about adding a second unit to the original house. And so there are several instances of this in the neighborhood. These I'm calling identical twins, where both sides are pretty much the same. And then we've got fraternal twins, where we've got differences, even though they're attached and they're two homes. This is the existing streetscape. This is 166 up the hill. The old water tower was behind here. And then you come down, there's the driveway. Then there's the driveway of 180. Then there's sort of the empty part of the lot. Then there's 180. And then there's the charcoal inn and beyond. And this is the view from the south, looking down the hill at 180. And there you see the Masonic Lodge, and there's looking up the hill, just to give you some context. Here's the house as it exists today. It's has been empty for quite some time. It's got yellow aluminum siding, many replacement windows. A couple of the windows in the front are original, and that's what I did the comparison for the window dimensioning on. And the Marvin Elevate series matches quite closely in terms of those dimensions. So when I talked about having different sized windows, they're just a lot, it's kind of all over the place, and a lot of them are replacement windows, and I didn't think that was as much as what you were interested in. Like, for example, back here, it's a little slider and stuff. So that's where that comment came from, and it probably added a little bit more confusion. But what I'm really concerned about with what's happening up here at the street facade. This is what we're proposing. It's not exactly what we're proposing, not exactly the finishes that I've proposed. It was an early rendering, but it gives you a sense of the shape, the scale, and what you really would end up seeing from the street, because it is a pretty significant slope on John Street. So you're always kind of looking at this house from down the hill. So what you see close by to you in the new unit is really the same size and scale as the original house, where this is the same thing that you see now, only just with new siding, new windows, and actually the porch is going to remain. There's concrete underneath this aluminum siding, so we're just going to remove that aluminum siding and restore the concrete that's always been there, and just get new railings for the stairs. It's this part in the rear where we're lifting up the roof to add that attic space with another bedroom and another bathroom. And it seemed to be the most respectful way to get the owners the program that they're hoping for and not overpower the street, or really even, the side of it. So that's kind of where this came from. Whoops, that's the next thing. So maybe while we're looking at this, I can talk about some of the finishes. So we're going to have, the windows with the trim and the siding. This is going to be a parge coat, not a veneer stone, just to keep it simple and to keep it a little bit more in keeping with what's here. This right here in the original house, Elizabeth asked about what's going to happen with that. It's an opening, I think, for access to maybe utilities. There's actually a crawl space under this concrete porch. And our intention is to close it off. There's access to the basement, you know, from the renovated units. So everything can be maintained and taken care of from those basement stairs. So this will be closed off, parged. You won't even remember that it's there. And the posts will be painted white. And I submitted some paint chips to Elizabeth this morning, actually, in response to her question. It's a Sherwin-Williams alabaster, which is a little bit of a softer white, not a super bright white, but a little bit of a softer white. And also the front doors will be replaced. Those are going to be painted black. The windows will be ebony, Marvin's ebony finish, pre-finish. And we'll paint the front doors black, basically to match that. And again, I submitted a paint chip to Elizabeth. It's a Sherwin-Williams Caviar. The number is, what's the number? I have the number. Hang on. The number is 6990, and for the alabaster, it's 7008. So that's the idea. Let me see if there's anything else with the house that I wanted to address. So yeah, just in terms of this roof again, it's set back 16 feet from the facade of the house and 22 feet from the facade of like the front of the porch. So it is quite far back from where you'd be standing on the sidewalk or anything like that. So just wanted to say that. The attic windows here, we can see it better on the here on the architectural drawings. They aren't lined up, and that really has to do a bit with the layout upstairs and the way the roof comes down and the head height that we've got. So I realize they're not lined up with these windows here, but also they're so far back that I'm not sure they're really going to be visible, and that your eye is really going to associate them so much with these windows on the front facade. But I'm happy to talk to you about that further. The exterior lights, I put them on these right here. I revised this elevation. Can you see that, what I'm doing here? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's 6 3/4 wide by 9 3/4 high, and this is an actual scaled drawing of it next to the doors. So I think it's in keeping with other, you know, front porch lights in the neighborhood. In terms of the color temperature, I'm happy to look into if we can get a warmer temperature for these lights. And if not, then if we can find a warmer temperature with a similar style light, we can certainly submit that to you. I talked about the railings, the utilities. They are going to go underground. I mean, most is underground. The electric is currently above ground for the original house, and we're specifying it to be underground for the new unit. I guess we'll see if it will also be above ground, or if it can go underground. That would be ideal. So that's for sure. The siding. So we're going to do hardy plank siding everywhere. Elizabeth has a sample, the color sample of the light mist. It's just a very pale gray. And right now the aluminum siding actually is, I'll go back to the picture here, is actually very close to, it's 7 3/4 exposure, which is not really in keeping with anywhere else in the neighborhood. And actually the house that we just talked about at 86 Lee, you can see from the interior now, you can see the original cedar siding, and that exposure is 5 inches. So I would propose that we would do 5 inches on this house. But I'm also open to doing closer, closer to what you see here, which is the 7-inch exposure that the hardy plank comes in. So I'm happy for your comments and to to take your comments on that one. Proposed driveway. Okay, the house numbers, it's hard to see from this picture. The house number is, let me see if I can get in a little closer. It's like a little script iron thing that says 180. So we're not gonna do that again. I mean, I think that we will do something a little bit larger that it's visible, a little bit more visible from the street for people trying to find the house, mail carriers, etc. Okay, landscape. So maybe we'll go to the, this is the landscape plan. Oh, let's talk about the fence first. So there were a few questions about the fence. The existing fence looks like this. And it's a chain link fence that goes up the south side. It comes around, actually the south side continues on, and then this is on the west side. It comes across the back, and there's also a wood fence there that's running parallel to this that you can see here, running all the way. It keeps going and going and going. I'm not sure if that's the university fence or if that's just left over. And this is the chain link fence at the driveway right now between 166 and 180. So our proposal is to remove this fence and just surround the property with a new 6-foot board-on-board wood fence. And you can see that in the landscape plan here. It's coming up this side, the south side, coming across the back right on the property line, and then coming down the north side and ending at the end of the house. So it'll clean up the lot. It'll make it look neater and cared for. It'll give this property a little bit of privacy. So that's, I hope that answers your questions about the fence.
So Louisa, I was looking at the site plan, which showed it looked like it said that the fence was chain link from the front and then the back was wooden.
I think that's what's existing.
Right. So that's it. And so you're going to take all of, which is the property owner's fence. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the chain link, I mean, the chain link is pretty much on the property line, the southern property line, and it's within this property on the west side. So we'll certainly take it down on the west side. If it's determined to not be our fence, I guess we can take down whatever's on our property, but then we could work it, we'll just put the new wood fence on the inside of it, I guess.
And what about on the east side in the backyard? Is that?
There's no fence there now.
Okay, so that's going to be a new wood fence.
Correct.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, so the driveway, we are showing a strip of grass in between the tire lanes for the beginning of the driveway. And that's really to reduce some of the impervious coverage on the lot and to encourage, some infiltration from stormwater and rain and things like that. The rain garden is set toward the back, and we're a little bit concerned, like it's a little bit sensitive to put anything too much along the north property line because the charcoal inn is right here. So, and it's quite close to the property line and it's set pretty far back. And so the idea was to put the rain garden back here, really get all the drainage back here. And then it has a pipe to come out underground to eventually connect whatever hasn't been absorbed by the rain garden to pipe it out to the storm sewer. So I understand your comment about more of a longer linear rain garden, but I think in this particular case with this building, this neighboring building's foundation so close to the property line. We just kind of wanted to keep the water away from this area and get it back here. We just thought it was kind of better for everybody. The plantings, absolutely happy to, confer with the municipal arborist about the plantings, and just to make sure that we've got the right choices here. Certainly natives, of course, and the appropriate plants for the appropriate depth of the rain garden as well, and on the slope and etc. We do have 2 ornamental trees here. The space is a little bit limited back here, so I'm not sure how much it makes sense to try to fit a tree in back here. I understand from, shading from the south side is preferable. I'm just not sure if that really will make sense to do that, but we do have some ornamental trees here. We do want to leave some open space for kids to play, for people to sit outside and have some recreation, and just have some open space in the garden. So that's what we're thinking about here. The street tree. So there is one street tree already. We can certainly look at adding a second street tree. We do have utilities coming underground, which will make it a little bit difficult to locate that tree. Plus we've got the curb cut and we've got the entrance to the second unit. So it would just make sure, we would just have to make sure that we could kind of choose a nice location for it where it's not blocking the entrance to the house. It's not too close to the curb cut, and it's not on top of any of these utilities. So we're happy to look at it per your suggestion. Okay, I think I might have covered everything. Elizabeth, you think so? Did I miss anything?
How about the
question?
The porch posts? Are you going to color that a different color?
That's the alabaster. That's the white.
Oh, that is, okay.
The warmer white.
Thank you. Oh, yes, I have that. Apologize. Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to open it up to the commission members, and then also, Elizabeth, is there anyone from the public that is here that wants to comment on this?
No, there's no, let's see. Nope, only Deanna that's still there.
Nope, okay. All right, so commission members, questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd like to know, is this a one family that's building these houses? Is it one family?
Is it one family?
Yeah.
It's 2 partners.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know why one family is building 2 houses. But I think you answered my question.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're not keeping the posts that are presently on the front porch?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Anything else, Shirley?
Not right now.
Okay, David, I know you got your hand up.
What I remember from reading the Weiss report overall was that the front porches were a strong element, both structurally and culturally.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't see on this front porch is how you're going to sit out there and greet people and be part of the community. Mm-hmm. It's a porch, but it's not really a functional porch like that. And I think that's something that's missed that was stressed in the report. That's my feeling.
So we did talk at length about this in the last concept review.
Mm-hmm.
And I absolutely appreciate your comment, and I totally understand what you're talking about. I will say that we didn't want to ask for any zoning variances in this project, and I do not have any more room to extend that covered porch. Also, I want to sort of distinguish the 2 units. So that's kind of where we are.
That's kind of a false answer, though. I mean, you ran out of ability to add that porch, but you have a giant addition out the back.
But the porch the porch is, there's zoning allowable for the porch, and then there's other, it doesn't.
I don't know. I feel like we're missing what we're told was essential or important about the neighborhood.
Yeah, David, I'm glad you asked that question. You know, people move in the neighborhood because they say they're friendly and they like the porches, but nobody sits on the porches. Those porches had a purpose. When our families came home from working for families and working at the university, they sat on those porches and talked about their day, how their day went, and they sipped their tea and they watched their children playing. So our porches really had a purpose, and they don't have a purpose anymore, and it's not a neighborhood anymore. So that's why we ask these questions, because people move in and it changes the character of the neighborhood.
I agree, Shirley.
Are there other questions about the massing or the any other decisions? What's the roof material again? It's going to be an asphalt shingle, or?
Yes.
Okay, just a black asphalt shingle.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Madam Chair, may I ask a question? Again, I'm new
Yes,
to this
Tom.
commission, so please forgive if this has been asked and answered before. Maybe this is one for our attorney. Though I really appreciate Elizabeth Kim's comments about the rain garden and the plants and landscape suggestions. I just want to clarify, however, is this actually within our domain as the Historic Preservation Commission to be specifying to the applicants the specific choices for their landscaping?
Tom, the answer is yes. We do have complete jurisdiction over the landscaping in the historic district. And oftentimes when issues like this are raised, a subcommittee will be appointed of HPC to work administratively with the applicant to finalize the landscape plan, but we have jurisdiction.
So just to extend that question from my own understanding, who within the process of getting projects done like this has the final authority to approve the stormwater bioretention facilities? So it could be the zoning department, it could be the planning department, it could be the municipal engineer or the HPC. Just I appreciate the understanding that we have jurisdiction here. I'm just thinking, like an applicant, however, who gives the final answer and who do they direct their attention to get the approvals?
Tom, we have a standard condition we worked out with the engineering department and with the construction department. So if this was approved, that rain garden the applicant would have to comply with any and all Princeton land use ordinances, construction code requirements, and engineering requirements that may be applicable. So basically for the rain garden, it would be the engineering department.
The engineering department. Okay. Right. Good, thank you.
And then just to let you know, Tom, there's state stormwater management requirements. So anytime you displace a certain amount of land, you have to comply with the new stormwater regulations. So actually the stormwater management on this property is going to improve because the regulations dictate that they have to now deal with the stormwater in an engineered fashion. I think right now the stormwater just falls on the street and
yes,
I'm aware of that. The area.
I'm in a situation myself where trying to expand a driveway over 400 square feet triggers the need to come up with the stormwater management plan. So it's a challenge and it's complicated. It's very much needed. I guess the option for this client is a rain garden or indeed some stormwater retention facility in the ground. I guess that's what they've decided to go with the rain garden. But it complicates things and it increases costs, of course. It has to be done. But I'm just trying to clarify where is the jurisdiction ultimately for this from an applicant's point of view. And I gather it's in the engineering department.
So I did want to alert members that it's almost 7 o'clock and Brenna does have to leave. I would like it if she were able to vote. Yeah, David, you have to leave too? Anyway, Ben has to leave too. Shirley has to leave too. So
wow.
I think
everybody's a pumpkin tonight.
So I think we need to either move forward with this application. Obviously, I want to be thoughtful, but there's a lot of members here that do need to move to other venues. So is there a motion and are there conditions, or would anyone like to propose something?
I have
Yeah,
a
Rick.
question, and we don't need to have it answered now, but I'd like to, particularly after the previous application, Louisa, I'm interested in if, is this, the one illustration you have shows the whole complex in it painted the same color or not painted any color. I'm not quite sure which it is meant to illustrate, but are you going to differentiate one side from the other with paint or with material or whatever, so that you've made a real effort to define them separately? But I'm wondering if that's going to be heightened by that kind of exterior treatment. And if those things are not decided, maybe they could be administratively discussed instead of going before the whole meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the moment we were just talking about doing it all the same, but I do appreciate your comment that architecturally they are different to a certain extent, and so it could make some real sense to treat them differently in terms of siding color. But we haven't really thought about that in a lot of detail. I mean, right now we're proceeding with it of the same color. So, but I'd be happy to entertain that, and certainly if you vote on this project tonight, that would certainly be something that we could come back to you with.
Thank you.
David, you have your hand up?
Yeah, actually, and maybe Frida can help me with this. The gap between the two buildings, would it make any sense to actually try to make that work even more by giving that a darker shade than the facade itself? Not to put you on the spot, I'm
No, I actually noticed that gap, but you know what? I don't think so. I think it would probably stick out a lot more if you did that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think the two buildings look different. I don't even know if you need to differentiate it with color.
Mm-hmm.
My only question was, when Elizabeth read the letter, she said there was an issue with the gable, and I don't know if there was a solution given. Or we weren't looking for a solution. It was
I've been through many design iterations of this, trying to figure out how to have the least impact on the streetscape, and yet still get a little bit of space up in the attic. And this seemed to be really the most reasonable and respectful one. And the smallest amount of raised roof. And working with, because the roofs in the rear of the original house, actually it's a cross gable to what you have at the front. So I'm kind of working with what's there already and building it up. So it's already opposite to what it is at the front that exists now. So I'm just so that's where it kind of came out, and it seems to be a successful solution, especially because I don't think you're really going to see much of it from the street.
Yeah, I appreciate the way that's been minimized.
All right. Well, it is almost 7. So are there any? Okay, bye, David Cohen. Are there any members that want to entertain a motion?
Julie,
Yes,
maybe we could ask Louisa, is she comfortable with the conditions that were outlined by Elizabeth in her memo, or we can work with those administratively? And I should also mention that since this new unit's being built, the developer, is going to have to pay an affordable housing development fee. And just so that there's no surprise, but that would be in any resolution of approval.
Okay. The other thing is, yeah, we need to comply with the state stormwater management regulations. So the rain garden is part of the stormwater management. So I think we have to defer to the engineering on how big it has to be and stuff, because it's also in the rear of the property. So I'm not sure how much jurisdiction we have. But anyway, given that, yeah, are there any motions to approve the project with those conditions?
So I'll just pipe up and say that I think I addressed everything that Elizabeth asked for in the memo, and I'm okay with all the, you know, the engineer approving things and the municipal arborist approving things, and I think I'm just looking at this again. Like I gave the paint chips, we have the color samples, so I think it seems very reasonable that we could address all of the comments. Yes.
Louisa, can I just ask, can two people sit comfortably on the porch? I mean, how much area are we talking about as far as, you know, people being
I mean, I think you could bring out like a folding chair and you could sit there. It wouldn't be as leisurely and comfortable. It would be a little cozier than the one next door. But the stoop is there. You could sit on the stoop too.
Louisa, is if you put a porch on, does that increase your impervious? Is that what?
I would have to ask Derek for I'd have to go through the zoning variance process, because I would have more than 200 square feet of covered porch on the property.
Yes, David.
I guess my question is for Elizabeth and Ed. So HPC loses out on something they want because of a zoning ceiling, I guess is the way to say it.
Well, David, I mean, you don't have to lose out on anything. If that's important to you, then the applicant would have to go to the zoning board. Most of them do, many of them do. They're just trying to avoid that trip, but you don't have to agree to that.
Thank you.
Is HPC, I mean, I don't know exactly how this works. Are we able to sort of make a recommendation to the zoning board, or to, reinforce that there's, we see significance to, granting this variance would allow something that we would see as sort of significant or meaningful? Does that make a difference?
Well, the answer is yes. Oftentimes you will send applications, reports over to the zoning board, and you will strongly recommend, unanimously recommend sometimes, that approvals be granted for the variances sought. And I think the zoning board respects your recommendations, and for the most part, I think have taken them all. So the answer would be yes. But the challenge here is you'd have to convince the owners to start the variance process.
And Louisa, you're at your square foot maximum, right? Because the porch counts towards I believe towards living space, correct? I mean, you would have to.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You all on mute?
Yeah, so we are not on mute, all right? So
there's one issue here that hasn't been raised yet in terms of the porch area. She's been, Louise has come before us twice with this, correct?
Yeah.
This
is the third time.
It's the third time. And, we did not strenuously a porch on that side in the previous two meetings, if my memory serves correctly.
All right. So it is true, Louisa has come with 2 concept reviews and then the final application. There's been a lot of modifications on the height of the top and the back, the configuration. Yeah, I agree with Roger. We have had a chance before to say that was a make it or break it feature, and we did not.
Oh, I know I brought it up before.
Yes, I know it was discussed. We've gone back and forth on whether they're identical twins or different twins. We've gone back and forth on how they differ. So I guess that's at the crux of it. Are the 2 sides differing or are they the same? Because obviously the one side has the full porch and the other side doesn't. So,
But I think that Shirley and I were trying to also make the point that not just appearance, but functionality or how it would be used.
Right.
I think Frida asked the question of really how big is that space? And I think the answer was a couple of folding chairs, which is, it's different.
all right, well, we do have to take some action here. So would you like to propose anything?
I don't know that I know how to propose something. Do you want to give me a hand?
Well, like, you either can approve or deny. So it's kind of either one.
All right, well, I know.
And
where
do
I
it
am
with
on that.
recommendations too. So approve it with, under the condition or without. Or deny it with that, whatever.
I think the way to get it on the table would be for someone to move approval second, and then if you weren't in favor of that, you could vote against it.
Motion to approve.
There's a second? Okay, seconds, Ulrich. All right, Elizabeth, do you want to do the roll call?
Yes. Capizoli,
Yes.
Mr. Endersby,
Yes.
Ms. Satterfield,
What do I say? Oppose? I don't know what.
I say no.
No.
Mr. Shore,
No.
Mr. Shatskin,
Yes.
No.
Ms. DeSenzo.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 4 in favor, 3 opposed. So motion carried.
Motion carried. All right. So thank you, Louisa.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. I completely understand the idea about the front porch. And I think
Makes
that
sense.
maybe that's something that you all should take up with the town council, because it's a real shame in this neighborhood, you know, if it's very, very important to you to have these front porches, that these projects are limited by the 200 square foot rule on the zoning.
It's not
And that's-
necessary. It's not
It seems to be
necessarily.
like, you know, going head to head, and it doesn't really make sense. And maybe that needs to be part of the Witherspoon Jackson neighborhood ordinance, that there's more allowance for larger for front porches. That's just my 2 cents. Because
Maybe
It might
big-
have to count as the overall square footage or part of the FAR. It should just be a separate, you know, the way it's
Yeah,
acted.
exactly. It shouldn't count
Shouldn't
toward
count.
living
Shouldn't count.
space.
Yeah, it's not livable. It's not living space, but that's the way it's
Right.
done.
Yeah, maybe bigger porches where people could sit. I'm just concerned that people say they have these porches and when they move in, nobody sits on the porches.
I totally agree with that, Shirley. I really do. I'm working on a lot of projects in this neighborhood. I've been before you guys with 3 different projects in the last few months. I mean, I understand. I do. I really do. And I think that actually, but I think a structural change needs to be made. And that's probably coming from you guys. Anyway,
Well, I
thank you
think
so much.
thank you. We need to bring it up with David Cohen when he, next meeting, because he is the liaison, he's our council member.
Yeah.
And that's where the ordinance is changed. So.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else? I know a lot of people have to go. So,
thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Good
thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Louisa.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. If there's not any other business, then is there a motion to
Motion to
adjourn?
say goodnight.
All right. Second.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Yeah. Yes, there's a motion and a second to adjourn.
Okay.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
See you, Elric.
I agree with you, but I think it's one of those things that
I felt bad.
I think we got to work on precedent on this when it comes to square footage and all that. And we should have dealt with it at one of the earlier meetings.
But you know what? If you can't change it, you have, oh, sorry, I have to stop recording. Hold on. But if you have to change it, if you can't change the zoning,